Hi guys, it's Tim and Kathy with Taste Life with Us, and we're here on the Carnival Panorama.
We're on a repositioning cruise for 25 nights.
Yes, we are.
And we want to talk to you about whether it's better to fly and stay or better to take a repositioning cruise. So we're going to crunch the numbers with you today.
Yeah.
And the factors, because there are some factors.
Yeah, and the reason why we're doing this is we're going to look at what we've done.
Yes.
Okay, and then we're also going to talk about what we're thinking about doing.
Yes, so from two different perspectives.
Yeah.
Okay, hindsight and
Foresight?
no hindsight. Risk.
All right. All right, so let's talk about what the cost would have been if we did.
We're on it.
So taking the Carnival Panorama repositioning cruise from Singapore back to Los Angeles
Yes.
versus flying and spending a month in Kuala Lumpur,
Right.
correct? Because we did that.
This is what we're going to compare it to. We're not going to compare it to staying a month in Singapore because Singapore is hella expensive.
No, we would have
There's
never
no way
done
that would win.
No.
Okay, we thought about Vietnam, but the flights from Vietnam are even a little farther to LA.
About 25-hour flight.
And just as expensive or more expensive, so that's not as good of an option.
Right.
Although
So-
we love Vietnam.
But that's why we
So,
came up with Kuala Lumpur.
came up with Kuala Lumpur because we literally just stayed there for an entire month.
Right.
And we know exactly what it cost us. We're going to
Right.
use the real numbers.
Right.
Now, if we were doing it based on 25 nights of an accommodation, it would not be fair because you wouldn't get the month discount. So we're just going to assume for this, to give it its best shot, that it's part of a 1 month stay at an Airbnb with a discount.
Correct. The first thing we're going to talk about is how much did the cruise cost us? Now, this is the cruise fare plus taxes and fees.
Yes,
Okay?
and it's for an inside guaranteed cabin. For your information, we booked it as soon as it was released. I did keep checking every sale and the price never got lower, except a few days ago, if we would have wanted to switch to an upper lower bunk bed, could have saved a couple $100 a few days before we sailed.
I probably would have fell out of the
No.
bunk bed. Yeah.
That's not how we roll.
All
We're
right.
too old for that.
So the cost of our cabin was $3,427.
Yes. Now, of course, that includes our accommodation.
Mm-hmm.
It also includes our food. We did not buy a drink package, but because we're on a Carnival brand cruise line, which also includes Princess and a bunch of others, and we have 100 shares of Carnival stock, so we got $250 of onboard credit for that, and our booking came with $200 of onboard credit.
Okay.
So that $450 has given us a chance to splurge a little on a couple specialty dinings and some drinks.
Yay.
But really, you don't have to buy anything extra. Excuse him, we're on a cruise, he has a little cold.
Kennel cough.
But you don't have to buy anything extra if you don't want to.
Right.
You know, that's discretionary.
So cost of food for us is where we're going to put that onboard credit.
Yeah.
So food includes drinks and what you would spend it on.
Yeah, so we didn't take that off of our cost. We're just saying we have the freedom to spend $450 if we want to.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, we do have to pay the gratuities.
Correct.
And that's going to run us about $800.
Right. And now if we were staying on land, that wouldn't be a cost that we would
Wouldn't have a gratuity.
Right.
Now, all our activities and entertainment are included, and we don't have local transport. So the whole cruise total,
$4,227.
yes. Now, what if we would have just, instead of cruising home, what if we would have stayed in Kuala Lumpur and we would have stayed a whole month and got a great discount, but we're only going to calculate 25 days of the cost here so that it's fair.
Okay.
And then we flew home, not using points, but paying.
So we're only paying for the flight one way.
Correct.
Okay, because
One-way
this
flight.
cruise is one way.
Yes.
Okay.
One way, everything.
All right, so the cost of the flight, now,
For both of us.
for both of us, legroom included?
And here's the thing. when you're talking 20 hours, that's a lot. He's a tall guy. He's like 6'2". So, we do have to get the extra leg room, but we fly economy.
Yeah, we still fly the
We're not
economy.
flying economy plus. We're not flying business class like all you lucky people who are just laying flat. That's not us. We're cramped in the seat with the cattle. But we probably would pay to sit in like the exit row, or have the extra 4 inches, because Tim,
Hey, those 4
his
inches,
knees
they
are
matter.
against the
Yeah,
seat.
they matter. So the cost of the flight, roughly, right? So now we're talking averaging here.
Yeah,
Okay.
looking it up on that date.
Yes.
And which Google Flights said was the average price if we would have flown on November 5th, which is when we get into LA.
Right. So that's $1,600 for the flight for the two of us.
Plus 260 approximately, depending on which airline. That's what it would have been on Singapore.
For extra
both
leg
of
room.
us to get extra leg room.
You don't need extra leg room. You're short.
But I want to sit by you.
She lies. She sits across the aisle from me anyway.
Yeah, but the whole row is probably extra leg room.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so cost of accommodation, because we're on the cruise, so we're living here, right? So
Yeah.
we don't have that accommodation cost. It's added into the cost of the cruise. If you're flying, you fly for 20 hours, but now you're going to spend 25 days in some type of accommodation.
Right. So our accommodation in Kuala Lumpur, which was an incredible deal,
It was.
25 days of that would be $919. Now, the cost of our food while we were there, this is the exact cost of our food,
Yeah.
was $1,200.
And we ate good.
We did eat pretty well. We ate a lot of street food. You
Yeah.
probably could go cheaper on the food, but we got to be real to who we are. This
Right.
is what it would have cost. This is what it did cost us.
Yes. So $919 for food. Again,
Yes.
on the cruise, unless you want to do specialty dining, which we spent some of that $450 on it, it's all included.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay. Now, when we were on land, we did have to pay if we wanted to do any activities or entertainment, which all we really did was the butterfly park and the bird park.
I like butterflies.
But it came to $98,
Yep.
so we've got to include that.
So again, when you're on land, technically you don't have gratuities. So we paid $800 in gratuities on the ship,
But we don't have that on land.
and that's a
But
discretionary thing
we
on land.
needed local transportation.
True.
So we had Grabs and a Subway. So $70 on transportation locally.
Yes.
So that entire thing came to a best case price,
Best case,
best case,
$4,147. So is it cheaper?
almost identical.
Yeah. It's really,
Really, there's so many
it's less than $100
ifs about that
comparison.
because we're estimating flight costs and what have you. So you can't say that $80 is, or $120. No,
No,
$80.
$80, yeah.
It could be $80
And
less.
remember-
It could be $200 more.
Right. That's best case scenario.
Right.
Now, I will say, it also could be your worst case scenario on the cruise if you started buying drinks and not thinking about
Yeah,
it.
well, obviously,
tried, she
how
wouldn't let
you
me.
behave and live impacts your costs anywhere, land or sea,
True.
as we well know, because we have that problem sometimes.
So I want to just throw something out there with this whole thing too that people don't oftentimes think about, but it is also very important. If I'm going to fly 20 hours, the jet lag is going to kick my booty.
Yeah, and it's about a 12-hour time change, so you're literally flipping your days and nights. That is hard to get used to. That
That's
is not
hard.
like flying from California to New York
No.
and waking up or staying up a little later or earlier. This is complete
Flip.
day and night reversal, and that's hard.
That's hard on your system.
is
It's
hard.
going to take a few days to get acclimated.
Yeah,
Now,
so that's not fun.
no, but when you cruise,
Yeah.
you don't have that.
They
because
spread it out.
You're only gaining or losing an hour a day or a couple of days here. So much easier to acclimate to that time change.
Yes. Which it still is a lot of time changes, but one at a time for an hour, it's not
No
nearly as
biggie.
bad.
Yeah.
Another thing to think about is your comfort, because on a cruise, we're hecka comfortable, right?
Styling.
We are so comfortable.
We are,
Now-
and I'm getting good night's sleep. I'm not
Yeah.
jacked up in a small seat for 20 hours.
Yeah, can you imagine being on a plane so long? Kennel cough.
Kennel cough.
Can you imagine being on a plane that long?
No,
So
I cannot.
we
Not in
flew
economy.
10 hours from New Zealand to Singapore,
That was tops. That's the most
and
I
we
could
did
do.
pay for the extra leg room, and it was tough.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah, it was, especially for Tim because he's bigger, but he does sleep on planes and I do not. So, yeah,
Okay.
there's that. Okay, now, so let me.
Well, okay, so now this is also assuming with these flights that you're paying cash. You're not using points, and
Right.
there can shave money that way.
Yeah, I mean, these things are just personal to the person booking it, right?
Right.
What you have resource wise. Now, these also assume that you don't have a free casino cruise because if we could really just get into that game,
have got
we
to
would
figure out
be
that. Yeah.
solid, right?
I just don't gamble. Partly because
Not enough.
I lose. I'm sorry. I don't have the mind to calculate odds that quick.
Yeah. So anyways, we don't get casino offers. We're trying to figure out how to manipulate that system, but we haven't gotten
Haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, so we do need to mention though that if we had gone straight to California sooner, instead of staying in Kuala Lumpur, our lodging would have been at least $2,500, even in the small country town
Right.
area that our family lives.
Right. So that starts to
that
jack
was
the
not an
price up.
option either.
Yep. All right. So now let's talk about our future and what we're thinking about and why this came up actually.
Yeah, because we are considering. So we go to Europe next March on a transatlantic repositioning cruise, and so in about October of 2025, we were thinking of should we go back to the U.S. for a little bit, but that's expensive and got to go out again, but we're going to run out of Schengen stuff. Anyways, we're trying to figure out what we want to do for Europe. But we saw this cruise come up on Royal Caribbean that goes from Barcelona to Cape Town, South Africa.
Ooh. And this could be fun because it's an 18-day cruise.
Yeah.
So it's a
And it
little over
goes to
half a
the
month.
Canary Islands, which cruising is probably your best way to get to the Canary Islands. So that's another reason why sometimes repo cruises are better.
Is that
Because
where
they
the
go to
Canaries
like
come from?
random islands that are not that easy and cheap to get to otherwise. Canaries? Yeah.
Did they come from the Canary Islands?
Yes, we're going to the Canary Islands to see canaries, honey.
Cool.
It's a giant bird park. You'll love it.
Aw, thanks.
So, anyways, that's kind of a fun idea. And
Yeah.
it stops in Tangier, Morocco, and in Namibia.
There you go. Yeah.
That sounds fun, but it's mostly sea days.
Okay.
So, we
So-
do not have shareholder credit on Royal Caribbean. We can't afford their stock. It's heck expensive.
So no onboard credit.
No
coming back
onboard
to
credit
Ouch.
on this one. Now, of course, since this hasn't happened and flight prices are not out for the end of 2025, we're just going to
Guesstimate.
guesstimate this stuff.
What are we basing this flight on?
So I did look up approximate normal prices on the price graph for Google Flights.
Okay.
And they're coming up in the high 800, but
Per
I'm just
person? 800?
Yes,
Okay.
per person.
800 per person. Okay.
And that doesn't include extra seat. So when I put down that our entire flight would be $2,000 for the both of us, that's an extremely conservative estimate.
Okay.
It could easily be more like $2,500
Okay.
or even more.
So the cruise cabin. We're gonna just go down the cruise here first. So our fare for the cruise cabin on this cruise, an 18-day cruise, would be
The price we were quoted, we have
Right.
not committed to this.
is $2,954
Now,
U.S.
there's one
dollars.
thing I don't like about this quote is that it's a guaranteed cabin. That means you don't get to pick it. They just assign it. They promise they'll give you one somewhere.
Oh, bless their
Could
hearts.
even be an upper lower bunk. So we're still looking into what the price would be if we actually picked our cabin. But it's definitely an inside cabin. We go cheap.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we would have gratuity on the cruise.
Yes, so we would have
And that would be $648.
Okay.
Now the agency that we use, which I'm kind of looking into this too with others, but they require, I don't know if it's because of the high deposit of $1,000 or if it has to do with it being a repositioning cruise, but anyways, this agent requires that you pay an extra $538 to make your deposit refundable, which Royal Caribbean doesn't normally refund deposits at all.
And we do know that cruises that are a year out or more
Are risky.
they do
We've had one
cancel.
cancel just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to pay that extra $538. Still
Okay.
researching that also.
But with all of those costs included, it comes out to $4,140.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing: our monthly budget is only $4,000.
And that's 18 days.
Yeah, this is only half of that.
But 18 days of a $4,000 budget is $2,400. So our accommodation and food, if I'm very generous and I put in the $2,400 for that, plus the plane flights, that comes out to $4,400. That's more than our budget. The $2,000 is, I mean, the airfare alone would eat up the entire 18 days of that budget, more than the 18 days. But we'd have to stay somewhere, and we'd have to eat.
Right.
So the trouble when you're planning ahead is like, where would we go? I mean, if we stayed in Georgia or Albania, maybe we could get by pretty cheap.
Yeah.
But we're also still flying around Europe to do that. If we stayed somewhere a little more expensive, probably would be closer to our full budget. Not even an expensive place, just like a pretty cheap place. But we just don't know. You know, we haven't dialed in where we're even going in Europe, much less exact accommodations. So we're just kind of going on our budget. We're just assuming we'd be spending our budget amount in Europe because Europe's expensive, and we pretty much spent that in Asia, which is supposed to be cheap. So, yeah. So we're just going to figure $2,400, 18 days worth of our full budget, plus the flights.
Okay.
$4,400. And I was actually shocked that staying on land under those conditions would be more.
Yeah.
Now, all that said, when you're a nomad, you have complete and utter flexibility.
Yes, you do.
There's no need to go to South Africa.
No.
We could just stay in Europe the whole time.
We could.
If we
stay in Morocco, it'd be a lot cheaper.
We could find the cheapest place of a non-Schengen country and stay there. So could we do it cheaper than our budget? Maybe.
But would it be as fun?
I mean, it's still, all that is for 18 days. It's like double our budget.
Yeah.
For barely over 2 weeks. So we're going to have to make that up somewhere else by spending half our budget for 18 days.
We could live on a camel in Morocco. No, we couldn't.
Okay.
I don't know.
So anyways, the other thing is, you know, if we stayed in Europe, would we then be flying home to the U.S., which would be a lot cheaper eventually? I mean, what if we even just flew home to the U.S. right then? It would be probably significantly cheaper than from South Africa.
Yeah.
And only like 8 hours or 10 hours.
True.
So, you know, there's all those things to think about, and we're still thinking about them. We haven't made a firm decision on this trip.
Right.
But
what we really wanted to do was just open up this conversation that we have and share it with you, because if you're going to be a nomad, this is the conversations that you have.
Yeah.
And when you have this conversation, you got to be open about it.
Yeah, because repositioning cruises are fantastic. Yes, they are expensive. So is life. And when you start comparing them, you know, even though it's a kind of a little bit apples and oranges, it's not. You can break things down into the daily costs and kind of compare that and see, is this a worthy investment?
Right.
And now, in this case, we had to get from Southeast Asia back to California at this time of year. We had to do it. So our only option was cruise or fly.
Right.
But we don't have to go from Europe to South Africa and then home, because that's another thing. How do we get home from South Africa? You know, we're not going to fly all that way, so we'd probably come to like Malaysia, maybe Borneo, you know, for a couple months or something like that in the middle.
Yeah.
It's still a lot of flights. So, you know, you have to think through all these things and how they would compare cost-wise and also goals-wise. You know, I mean,
What do you want to accomplish? Where do you want to go? What do you want to see?
And how much does it cost to live there? You know, South Africa is a very cheap place.
They have good wine.
Excellent wine, which is a huge factor in our decisions of where to go.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know it because we were in Asia, but yeah. Aside from that, yes, Australia, New Zealand, all about the wine.
Okay.
So, yeah, just to give you food for thought as you're thinking this through and comparing it. This kind of gives you an idea of how to do it, and it shows you that, like, on this 25-day cruise, where we did have to get from point to point, it is about the same cost. So a cruise is a lot more fun than flying.
Yeah. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for participating in our little thoughts here. If you've got any ideas, leave them in the comments. We're open to suggestions for sure.
And if you're wondering, what is it like to be on a repositioning cruise for 25 days, and would you even like it?
We've got a daily vlog for you.
I would definitely suggest trying out like a 1-week cruise first and make sure you like cruising.
Well, I go for a 3-dayer first just to make sure.
Yeah, but that's like a party cruise. That's so different.
Yeah.
But we have been vlogging this repo cruise.
Yes.
So you can see it over on Cruise Through Retirement. Head over there, look at the playlist. We'll link it at the end of this video. And you can see day to day as we kind of focus on different areas of the ship and different things we're doing, and show you what it is like to be on a repositioning cruise.
Absolutely.
How is it?
You know what? I have loved it. Unfortunately, we caught a bug, and so I'm having a little kennel cough with that.
But we're having a great time.
Yes.
I mean, there's no such thing as perfect.
No.
Not on land or sea. There is no such thing as perfect, but it's pretty darn great.
And it's as fun as you want to make it.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you for tasting life with us.
Now go taste it for yourself.